So Enlisted has just dropped us the latest battle pass, and with it one of the most overpowered weapons that I have seen in a long time. And this is the Bren Mark 1 100. In this video we're going to be covering the history, the stats, and the verdict of whether I think this is good or bad. But before you do, of course, this video is made possible for the friends at Discord. If you haven't liked, subscribed, or joined the Discord, highly suggest that you do. But let's finally get started with the history. And this is the history. The Bren Mark 1 with 100 rounds is literally a Bren Mark 1 mounted with 100 rounds. If you want to see more about the Bren Mark 1, watch my video about the Bren Mark 1. But with the Mark 1 variant, the Bren Mark 1 without the 100 rounds, introduced in September of 1937 with the original Czechoslovakian design of the ZGB-33. With an overall length of 45.5 inches and 25 inches for the barrel, the weight came in around something about 22 pounds, or 10 grams. That said, this feature for the regular Bren Mark 1 has a drum pattern rear sight, butt strap for the over shoulder when firing, and rear grip over butt, and a folding handle, which makes this thing one of the better machine guns of World War II, at least in terms of light machine guns. But that said, let's move on to the stats. The Bren Mark 1 100 rounds come with a range reduction over distance of 13.2, 11.9, and 10.6. The muzzle velocity is going to be 760, which is actually pretty good, although in some maps you can still see the shots flying towards their enemies, meaning this thing has a lower muzzle velocity than most of the other weapons, notably the Johnson, the Browning, and the M1919A6 Browning. But overall, it's pretty good muzzle velocity. The rate of fire is 530, reload time of 3.8, which is actually pretty good for a 100 round magazine. Some other 100 rounds, such as the 1919A6 Browning, is not that fast. That said, the vertical recoil is 34 and the horizontal is 17, much more than the 1919 and much less than the Johnson, and much similar to the Browning M1918. That said, this obviously has 100 rounds, meaning that this thing is actually quite insane for what you get. That said, let's move on to the verdict, because there's not a lot to talk about except for showing you some gameplay. And to be exact, the verdict is very simple. And that really has to do with whether you like the M1919 Browning. And it really is simple as that. If you like the M1919A6 Browning, which I personally don't, then this is a very good weapon that could replace the M1919A6. If you don't like the M1919A6, then this weapon is essentially almost like a musket, except for you can also use the Johnson and the BAR, but this weapon has one of the better upsides in the sense that it has 100 rounds, it has a pretty decent solid rate of fire, higher than the M1919 Browning without being upgraded. But here's the catch. Its vertical recoil is almost the same, if not the exact same, to the 1918 Browning, which is actually pretty good. Overall, this means that you will be getting the Browning M1918 with 100 rounds, and this thing is really good. The sight on this thing is also very good because these have anti-aircraft sights, meaning that in close ranges you can actually use these sights to kill people. As a matter of fact, I think this sight is actually much better than the Vickers sight, which they gave us for a premium squad, or shall I say an event squad. But this thing is actually really good. The only downside is that its muzzle velocity is quite lacking in long range engagements, and the other thing is that the rate of fire is very lacking compared to the Vickers, but then this is also expected to be performing at close range, meaning that the Browning Mark 1 100 rounds is to perform at close range, but it doesn't have the rate of fire as the Vickers Mark 1, but on the other hand, it doesn't have the muzzle velocity for long ranges as compared to the BAR. But that said, that is all it for this video. If you haven't liked, subscribe, or join the Discord, I highly suggest that you do, and I'll see you in the next one.